Good morning, everyone, and welcome once again to the Wynwood Buddhist Temple's virtual Dharma Remembrance and Earth Day service. Today we will be remembering those loved ones who have passed away in the month of April. I will ring the Daiking after each name is read, and then after the last name is read, I will go immediately to the chanting of the Jusei-ge. The Jusei-ge is found on page 54 of your red service book. We'll begin today's service with the chanting of the Vandana and Tisarana, which is found on page 7 in your red service book. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Abhidhavus, Namandao, Namandao, Namandao. Himo Ikuta. Carol Kobayashi Kuwahara. Peter Tuzong. Tome Yanagisawa. Mitsue Inaba. Shizuko Kanda. Walter Seisho Yonamine. Namandao, 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 Namandao. Agon Josegan Kishimu 無量光不意大世主不在小民具政府上昇が大師上分の妙正常寺法苦行未消門政府上昇が利欲人少年上映修門行死ぬ無常の一生天人死人力現代語不詳無才道少女三無明法裁修薬難回避知縁縁名詞根門案閉塞小悪の通難善修門高僧上満足異様老寺法日願修十期天候不言一種解放像法世具読法上内修十説法四宿供養一切仏具足修読本元年心上満徳意三愛用女分無下心津断未不詳安楽へ力投資最小尊志願薬効果大戦を感動国書天人東鎮妙見こ Davatsu, Namanda, 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 Namanda. The reading for today is the Creed number 2. And this is found on page 4 in your red service book. Let's put our hands together. Casting off the self-power mind of the varied practices and disciplines, we entrust ourselves single-mindedly to Amida Tathagata to save us in regard to the one great matter of birth. With one thought moment of entrusting, we know that we are saved and that our birth is settled. After this, we say the name in joy and gratitude, repaying the Buddha's graciousness. We acknowledge gratefully that we were able to hear and understand the teaching because of the benevolence of our masters having appeared in the world, and of the successors in the transmission, the good teachers whose words were not shallow. Beyond this, we will observe the established rules of conduct throughout our lives. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Well, good morning, everyone, and happy Earth Day. And once again, welcome to the Wynwood Buddhist Temple's virtual monthly Remembrance Dharma service. As you are all reminded, each month we read out the names of those deceased loved ones, pets included, that have passed away in the month, regardless of the years. It is called Shotsuki Hoyo, and not to be confused with the private memorial services called Nenki Hoyo, held at certain intervals. And these intervals are, for example, the 49-day, 1-year service, 3rd year, 7th year, 13th year, and so forth. To schedule these, please call a temple office to schedule, and you will be referred to my cell phone. Now will you please join me by putting your hands together in reverence as I read these words of Shinran. Because the power of the vow is without limits, even our evil karma, so deep and heavy, is not burdensome. Because the Buddha's wisdom is without bounds, even the bewildered and wayward are not abandoned. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. On April 22nd, 1970, throughout not only the nation and Canada, but throughout the entire world community as well, observe what has come to be known as Earth Day. And this day was made famous by Smokey the Bear, as you recall, and the Smokey the Bear Sutra with the chorus of Smokey the Bear, prowling and growling and sniffing the air. You remember seeing a picture? Something like this in the past. I recall 2 years ago, to celebrate Earth Day, we all went to Kailua Beach together with the Dharma School children to pick up as much trash as we could in a period of time and brought it back to the temple and had the Dharma School children use some of these materials to construct something in celebration of the event. And then we held a short Sunday service at the beach also. Well, maybe we can do it again for the next Earth Day. Just this past Thursday, it was reported by the Honolulu Star Advertiser that 2 planet healing events took place in different areas of Oahu. One, the Blue Sea at the Waimanalo Beach Park, and the Muddy Waters, the second one was at the Muddy Waters of the Alawai Canal, each receiving healthy restorative gifts. At Waimanalo Beach, a pair of honu about 2 feet long was released into the wild to restore populations of this endangered species, and hopefully will contribute to the regrowth of limu that grows hand in hand with the honu. In town, the Alawai school students threw baseball-sized genki balls into the canal to clean up its murky water. They made the balls by hand using clay soil from garden supply stores, mixed it with rice bran, molasses, lactic acid, yeast, and probiotic bacteria. The bacteria digests the hydrogen sulfite and all the stinky stuff in the canal. So these are examples of the many projects by Hawaii's residents in support of sustaining and maintaining our lives on Earth for the benefit of future generations. Environment was a word that appeared more often in spelling bees and on the evening news in the past. Although mainstream America largely remained oblivious to environmental concerns, the stage had been set for change by the publication of Rachel Carson's New York Times bestseller, Silent Spring. The book represented a watershed moment, selling more than 500,000 copies in 24 countries, and began to raise public awareness and concern for living organisms, the environment, and links between pollution and public health. Earth Day 1970 gave voice to that emergent consciousness, channeling the energy of the anti-war protest movement and putting environmental concerns on the front page. Then 20 million Americans took to the streets, parks, and auditoriums to demonstrate for a healthy, sustainable environment in massive coast-to-coast rallies. Thousands of colleges and universities organized protests against the deterioration of the environment. Groups that had been fighting against oil spills, polluting factories and power plants, raw sewage, toxic dumps, pesticides, freeways, the loss of wilderness, and the extinction of wildlife suddenly realized that they shared common values. April 22nd, Earth Day, awakens in us a renewed sense of awareness about the importance of nature in our lives. It provides the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, and the food that we eat. It is essential for life. Nature has a way of bringing all of this together. Nature unites us. Let us discover opportunities to act, volunteer, and give to celebrate our connection to nature. We're also very cognizant of the environment as well here in Hawaii, as I mentioned. In the past, Honolulu Advertiser columnist Connie Lau stated that Hawaii's companies are demonstrating alakai, or leadership in addressing environmental issues at a level not seen in past generations. And in speaking of Earth Day, I'm reminded of how we as human beings are living on this planet. I'm sure all of you have seen this truck a couple times a week. See, you recognize this picture, right? This is a garbage truck. And now we have 3 colored bins. And we separated all of our trash today. Brown bin for general rubbish, green one for grasses and general yard trash, and a blue one for newspapers, bottles, cans, and so forth. So when this system was first established, I thought, well, how humbug this is, because I'm used to putting everything in one bin. I wasn't used to the thought of recycling and how it can help ensure future generations of the necessities of life. So as I said, this one was for general household trash, one is for greens, the other one for recyclables. They come to your home more than once a week and pick up all the trash that you've accumulated throughout the past days and throughout the week. And when full, they're driven to a dump site. When you think about it, aren't we just like that? A lesson learned in New York City by a taxi driver as he explained to a rider as the cab was heading to Grand Central Station. They were driving in the right lane. All of a sudden, a black car jumped out of a parking space right in front of them. The cab driver slammed on his brakes, skidded, and missed the other's car by inches. The driver of the other car, the guy who almost caused the accident, whipped his head around and started yelling bad words at them. The cab driver just smiled and waved at the guy. He was so friendly. So he asked the driver, why did you do that? That guy almost ruined your car and sent us to the hospital. This is what the author of this story, by the name of David Polley, in his book, The Law of the Garbage Truck, wrote that as the cab driver told him, and many people are like garbage trucks. They run around full of garbage, full of frustration, full of anger, and full of disappointment. As their garbage piles up, they need a place to dump it. Nowadays, people are more scientific and are particular about how we dump our junk. We can now neatly dump our garbage, or as the Buddha explains it, as sufferings. We dump it into our trucks in categories. The Buddha saw suffering as analogous to an illness and called three basic causes of suffering the three poisons, as you well know. So now we have a black bin for our anger, a green one for our greed, and a blue one for our ignorance. And if you let them, they'll dump it all on you. So when someone wants to dump on you, don't take it personally. You just smile, wave, and wish them well, and move on. It's not easy to do. How often do you let garbage trucks run over you? And how often do you take your garbage and spread it to other people at work, at home, or on the street? It was then he said, I don't want their garbage, and I'm not going to spread it anymore. How often do we let other people's nonsense change our mood? Do we let a rude driver, a rude waiter at a restaurant, a curt boss, or an insensitive employee ruin your day? Or when you see someone in the store refusing to wear a mask and not social distancing at beaches or parks. Usually you're set back on your heels, but the mark of your success is how quickly you can refocus on what is important in your life. There are many, many examples of people who do not let garbage ruin their lives. One of the great football players of all time, Walter Payton, did this every game on the football field. He would jump up as quickly as he hit the ground after being tackled. He never dwelled on it a bit. Good leaders have to be ready for the next meeting. Good parents know that they have to greet their children home from school with hugs and kisses, even after a bad day. An incident happened to me once, and I wonder if this happened to you. I know it happened to me many, many times in the past, but just this one time, I really did something stupid. I was traveling along the H1 freeway once, going from Honolulu to Hawaii Kai, when suddenly a car overtook me and swerved back into my lane, almost hitting my left front fender. If he did, I would have gone into a tailspin, and with me going over 50 miles an hour at the time, there's no telling what might have happened. Well, in my rage then, I thinking that what might have happened if he skimmed my car, I blasted my horn and chased after him. He was in a hurry and was weaving in and out of traffic. I tried to catch up to him, and I too began weaving in and out of traffic, potentially causing harm and serious injury to many innocent victims. His car was obviously much faster than mine, so I lost sight of him after a few miles. Still enraged, I took the next off-ramp, went to a side street and dialed 911. I had mentally memorized his license number and gave it to the dispatcher answering the phone. I explained in detail what had happened and requested that a police officer look into the driver of that car. Being very distrustful that no one would be dispatched, I later called again. The only thing I had in mind was that justice be done, and I'm going to fix that guy. You see, we really don't know the circumstances for the driver of this car on the freeway, and why he was in such a hurry, or what was on his mind at the time. In retrospect, he probably didn't even know that he almost sideswiped my car and caused a serious accident with potential injury to me, himself, and no telling how many more other drivers of other cars as well. In the Tanisho, Shinran said that some people say that if a practicer of true entrusting should unexpectedly become angry, act wantedly, or argue with others, they should by all means undergo a turning of the mind. Does this mean that we should sunder evil and practice good? In the person of the single-hearted Nembutsu, the turning of the mind occurs only once. The turning of the mind refers to this: the transformation of those ignorant of the primal vow of the other power who, being granted Amida's wisdom and realizing the impossibility of everyday mind attaining birth, abandon the old mind and entrust the self to the primal vow. Once true entrusting is settled, we realize that our birth is due to the working of Amida and not to our own calculations. Even though we may do evil, even more should we think about the power of the vow. Then tenderness and forbearance will appear by virtue of made to become so by itself. So it is through experiences of the so-called garbage truck is when we learn compassion, when we learn our true selves and express our gratitude to Amida Buddha that enables us to see things as they really are and enables us to see our true selves. Well, thank you all for listening. And once again, let's put our hands together in reverence. To learn Buddhism is to know oneself. To know oneself is to forget oneself. One just is. This state of perfect naturalness, a state of meaningless meaning and purposeless purpose, this is what the Buddha taught. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. We will conclude today's service with the Gatha, Flying Free, followed by the Nembutsu. Namo Amida. Namo Amida. Namo Amida Buddha. Namo Amida Buddha. Namo Amida. Namo Amida Buddha. Happiness follows sorrow. Sorrow follows happiness. But when one no longer discriminates between happiness and sorrow, a good deed and a bad deed, one is able to realize freedom. Namo Amida Butsu. Well, thank you very much for attending today's Remembrance and Earth Day service. Please join us again next week as we will have a guest speaker by the name of Dr. Mike Jaffe, who is a member of the Wynwood Buddhist Temple. In the meantime, take care and be well. Goodbye.